Welcome back to a special episode of Going For It here with the Giants fans. Mike Splane joining me to discuss all things New York Giants after that, we'll say underwhelming to be kind, Seahawks performance. We thought that it might be best for us to talk about some of the things that we've seen from this team so far. Talk about, and we've talked about it on the pod, but just more in depth about where we expected the season to go and kind of where we're at now. I referenced it on our podcast in the Pick'em last night that I am officially off the Daniel Jones bandwagon. I was on there firmly waving the flag, leading the charge. But I just, at this juncture, seeing what I've seen, and this is not to say that the offensive line is not at fault, because it obviously is. You give up 10 sacks in a game, you are part of the problem. However,
11
sacks in a game, you are part of the problem. However, CJ Stroud is working with backups of backups in their offensive line and looks very good doing it. And like, as good as Nico Collins and Tank Dell look recently, you got to think DJ has receivers already that are in that vein. And Seattle themselves have no left tackle, no right tackle. They lost their third tackle in the game, and they still are fine. So something's broken.
You tell me.
Something's broken. DJ is just not. He's just not able to process. He's not able to process the game fast enough. His post-snap and pre-snap reads are lacking, but I digress. We will get into that here in just a couple minutes. I would like to start in a happier place. I would like to talk first about the early season expectations. Start a training camp, maybe after that second preseason game when they got the drive. That was excellent and made everyone excited, and Giants fans were abuzz. What was your feeling? What were you reading? What were you seeing? Like, what feelings did you have to start the season as a Giants fan?
Dude, there was so much fucking hope at the beginning of the season, during preseason, during training camp. Getting Waller, who's a bona fide stud receiver, even though he plays tight end, he still was going to be, a 1,000-yard receiver kind of guy. That's something that we needed in the room. We were all relatively okay with the re-signing of Daniel Jones because, 4 years, 160 looks steep. 100% does. 100% does. But the way that the deal is laid out, the guarantees, all of that stuff, the actual structure of it still was something that seemed smart on the front office. If they felt that he's not the guy, they still had a way out. So we were all excited about that. Dude, it was one of those things where I'm like, we got from the draft, I'm like, we got the thing that we needed the most. We got an offensive lineman. We got a center. I'm happy about that. We got a speedster at wide receiver. We got a cornerback. That's what we needed. Everything was just in the right direction. Felt like it was good. It was even when we got to, I think my favorite thing during the preseason was that everything we saw was awesome. It was rainbows. It was moonbeams. It was sunshine. Our starters didn't play the first preseason game, but they did do joint practices in Detroit leading up to that. And the first date of joint practices basically said, this team struggled a little bit. But then the second day of joint practices, it was one of those things where they're like, okay, whatever they saw in day one, they made adjustments and they tore them up. And I was like, okay, this is one of those things that's going to be great. We're learning how to make adjustments. We're doing everything good. And right now, there's been one game where we learned how to make adjustments. And in the other 3 games and 2 quarters, we've scored, 9 points? 6
Something
points?
like that.
3 points. 3 points. Probably only 3 points. I don't like it's what the
not a lot of points.
No, it's terrible. I don't even know how much we scored at this point because it's fucking awful.
So I want to go back and reference something you said there because it kind of set off a light bulb for me. Is that you would mention the structure of DJ's deal and how the front office essentially had an out after 2 years if he wasn't the guy. Do you think that maybe there was apprehension with this front office with the skill set, the tool set that Daniel Jones has, which is why that was built in that way? Do you think that maybe they saw the cracks in the concrete before anyone else really did?
I mean, duh. At this point, like it feels that way.
Feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the way that you look at how his contract is built and how it was structured. Okay, um, it was done in a way that after 2 years of that 4 year deal, there is an out in it. That out does still have a good amount of dead money, but it's not to the point to where it's detrimental. As
Right.
Giants fans, we've seen it higher, like as far as dead money in the cap. And it's one of those things like if you look at what the projected cap hits were, everyone's just like, "Oh man, you're paying him $40 million." It's like, no, we weren't paying him $40 million this year. His cap hits like 18 million. Like it's a
Yeah.
reasonable amount, so that way it could be structured to make sure that things are good. With the increase in cap next year, his cap hit is much higher. It's like 45 million, which is a lot. Duh, we know that.
There's a lot.
But at the same
There's
time,
a
you
lot.
still look at a $45 million cap hit, and now that is like what 11th in the NFL or something like that.
Yeah. It's like it's not in the top 10.
Yeah, quarterbacks are getting stupid money, so this is just kind of the expectation on the annual average per year or whatever. So, but it's one of those things that we can cut him before year three. I think we'd incur $20 million in dead cap or something like that. So like,
I
there's
think it's
still
like
a chunk.
22 or something.
There's a chunk. But it's one of those things that if it's not working, because right now it's not working this year. And it's one of those things that I kind of felt that they're like, okay, this guy at best is like the Alex Smith game manager, will get you into the playoffs if everything falls right for him kind of guy,
Right.
which is true. He did that last year. This year, he's not having things fall right for him. He's not reading the game well. And it's one of those things that it's like, was it maybe just the contract year? I didn't get my 5th year option picked up. I'm about to be out of a job. I played my ass off. And now we're in a situation where, like, okay, now that his contract situation is settled, he's comfortable. Now we're just seeing again who he truly is because he got paid. There's no fire under his ass to do more.
So I did some digging today before we get into our next topic. I did some digging today because we're talking about DJ. He's already thrown more picks this year than he did of all of last year. He
Correct.
threw 5 picks last year. He's thrown 6 already this year.
Yeah, and a couple of
Granted,
them, I'll give him. Some of them were tips.
right, some of them have been off receivers' hands, but also I feel like one of the things that people aren't talking about when they give him grace for that is that the placement on those throws isn't always the best.
No.
The tips typically, and like obviously it's not 100% of the time, but things rarely are. One of the issues with those being tipped and people being like, oh well, that doesn't count, is like, well, if he put it in a place where the receiver could catch it confidently, comfortably, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened that way. And like it just falls back on his accuracy. It's the crazy thing to me that drives me a little insane is the fact that last year he had worse weapons and was putting the ball in better places than he is currently. And he had what is a better offensive line, I suppose, because at least Andrew Thomas was on it. And like just this year, like the regression is so real. It's so real. And there's more talent when healthy, because obviously AT's been hurt since week 1 and it doesn't look like he's coming back this week. And, he was last week they were talking about him probably being ready for the Seattle game, not ready for the Seattle game, did individual drills this week, didn't feel right. And it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, at what point do we just like shut him down? Like, get healthy, get right. Like, we'll see you next season, big guy. Because winning games, I think at this point is a detriment to what this team really needs, which is high end talent. They have a lot of really good pieces in places. I think you see Isaiah Simmons get re-signed. I think he needs to just move to interior linebacker. I think he's excellent there. I think that's the position he's supposed to play. You have Bobby Okereke. Your corners are looking good for next year. You have um, Deontay Banks. His first name jumped out of my head. I couldn't figure it out. You have Deontay Banks, who's looked really, really good, all things considered, as a rookie. Trey Hawkins, I think, is going to be a stud. You need to find someone to fill that nickel role, because we learned that, Adori's not the guy to play in the nickel, and Cordell's not the guy. Darnay Holmes is not the guy. But there's good pieces. There's good pieces. I think Kayvon's going to take a step as the year continues. I think if Aziz stays healthy, I still think you need to get another edge player, because he's not someone you can count on week in and week out. You need a little more edge depth. But fuck, man, this was supposed to be the year. This was supposed to be the year where they took a step.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like I didn't look at this year and I'm like, oh, we're Super Bowl contenders.
No,
Like
absolutely not.
I just looked at this year as us being like a 10 or 11 win team potentially. 11 might be pushing it a little bit, but I felt that a 10 win team based off of last year's DNA and the upgrades that were made was something that was 100% plausible. So just to see everything fall apart, and obviously the injuries are unfortunate, like losing Saquon, losing Thomas, losing Bredesen at points, losing other members on the offensive line. Like clearly that doesn't help, but like the offensive line's been getting massacred as it is. So like it's just one of those things. It's just been disheartening as a fan to like go from having so much hope and like belief and buy-in to just watching everything just fucking crumble.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was, I really felt like at the beginning of the year, and I said this on the podcast, like, I'm going to stand behind my takes. At the beginning of the year, I really thought Danny was going to solidify himself as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
because if he carbon copied what he did last year, this year, with better weapons, he was going to have significantly better numbers. He has better weapons. Unfortunately, the offensive line has regressed, as we said, and there's injuries and stuff like that. But he has looked like a shell of what that guy was. And
Yes.
that guy wasn't even perfect. That
No.
guy still was taking the inside, the inside throws, everything 5 yards, everything or below. And like I think his EPA was like 3 yards or something this game, or like 3.7 or something like that. And it's like, you're not going to win football games that way.
No.
Like I say it about Lamar on the pod is unless you can throw the ball in the NFL, you will not win. Being a quarterback that can run is an excellent thing. It is a weapon. It is something other teams have to account for. But if you are a runner who can throw, you will not win in this league.
Yeah.
You won't do it.
No.
So
And you're 100% right. And it's one of those things that like you're looking at some of the breakdowns, and like you and I are big fans of Talking Giants, and like looking at their breakdowns, and even Brian Baldinger when he does his Baldy's breakdowns right after the games.
love them.
There's so many situations where like they're pointing out either situations where the offensive line is just completely butchering a general blocking scheme, which is upsetting to begin with. Obviously, I
Yes.
know that our offensive line is a lot of young guys, but to see a situation where there's 5 men blocking a 4-man rush and 3 men get through free,
Yeah.
what the fuck happened? Like, but then there's
Evan
other
Neal pushing
situations.
Darren Waller in the back.
Great
It's
one,
like,
lovely. It was
what,
fantastic.
what are you
But
doing?
then there's other situations though where we're looking at you know the all 12 view,
All
and you're
22.
all 22, sorry, all 22 view, and you're seeing these looks where if Daniel Jones is sitting in the pocket for a quarter of a second longer before he's just going to fight or flight mode because he lost his first read, he would see the deep read has gotten open and he can go ahead and put it where he can catch it. Because that's one of the things that I noticed the most with him. And I don't know who it was that I saw breaking it down. I think it was actually it was an article that you sent me from The Athletic today. So we're probably, I think that's on your agenda. So I'm sorry if I'm
It
jumping
is
off.
on my agenda. No, we're talking about DJ, so we can talk about this.
Yeah. So sorry about fucking everything up here. But you've known me long enough that that's what
It
I do.
was kosher. It was a good transition. It was good.
But no, there was a comment in there about the fact that he usually is like a one read quarterback. He's staring down his receiver and he does not make other reads. He can check down, but like he's not someone who's known to cycle through his reads. And the other thing is he's not a quarterback that has any kind of pedigree or anything of the like as being a quarterback that can lead his receiver. And I think that was in that article that you sent me, is that
Yeah.
he's not someone who can throw a receiver open. And it's one of those things like you got Jalen fucking Hyatt and Paris Campbell, who both have sub 4.4 speed. There was times in training camp where Jalen Hyatt was clocked at running 24 miles per hour. I don't think an NFL wide receiver has ever been clocked that fast in a game.
Nope.
And he was clocked doing that in full pads in training camp.
Yep.
Like, you can't throw that guy open. Like, and is it a problem like you don't have the arm, or you just don't know how to do it? Because there was the plays against Arizona. Like, he made 2 huge catches. He had 2 catches for 89 yards. The first one being a catch for 58 yards, if I recall correctly. Still was not a perfect throw. He had the entire secondary beat. It was still a little bit behind him. If the ball was thrown in front of him, so he caught
Touchdown.
it in stride, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Like, obviously, things worked well, and that game worked out. But like, how many targets down the field has Jalen Hyatt had since that? There's been 2 games
None.
since that game against Arizona.
0.
How many targets has he had? And it's the thing is, he got a couple targets against Seattle, but they had him running like 4-yard outs and fucking hooks.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I get that you want to get the guy involved, but like, use Slayton for that. Use Campbell for that. Use Wandale for that. Use Hodgins. Use Waller. Why are you using the guy that is known to be the absolute burner who will burn through defenses? And why are we using him on a 4-yard hook on 2nd and 9? Like, just make it make sense as far as like that being the read.
Yeah, it's concerning. There's, like I said, there's just so much, and in that article, it really did say a lot of my fears in a better way than I've been able to say them. It's just concerning that it took this long to get here, because there's been a lot invested in the success of Daniel Jones. Shane went out and got Darren Waller. He went out and drafted Jalen Hyatt. He went out and like all these things have happened to be able to give him a better opportunity to hopefully lead this team to a better place. And at the beginning of the season, both you and I were saying like, we're not going to compete for the division this year. Philly's got the division. They're just too strong top to bottom. But like, we could give Dallas a run. We could show Dallas what's what. Washington's not even in the conversation. And like right now, watching Washington get shit kicked by Buffalo, which is going to happen to the Giants in 2 weeks, but watching them get shit kicked by Buffalo, but play Philly and fight tooth and nail, I don't think this Giants team can beat the Commanders at this point.
No, and they got fucking Sam Howell at quarterback. Like, not trying to, like, I mean, granted, I like Evan Neal said, I'm just one of those burger flippers and hot dog flippers. But like, I like looking at Sam Howell. Like, I was like, undoubtedly, I was like 4th worst quarterback in the division. Like,
Yeah.
not even contest, not even going to argue it. I'm like, realistically, the Cowboys trading for Trey Lance, maybe he's the 4th worst, and Sam Howell's 5th. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, it shouldn't even be a competition. And now I'm just like, God, man, Sam Howell's actually giving people a run for their fucking money. Like, he's not
playing
good,
hard.
he's had moments.
Really. He's
He's
playing hard. He's putting his body. He reminds me of like year one, year two Baker. He reminds me a lot of
yeah,
Baker Mayfield
yeah, I can see that.
in that, like, I'm gonna run for the first down. I'm not gonna slide. I'm gonna do everything that I can because I'm not like the greatest quarterback, but I want to win, and like my compete is high. So that's what I see at a Hal. But like right now, I take him over DJ.
Yeah,
I take him over DJ. And like the thing that you and I, just to wrap on the Daniel Jones conversation, because I know we could do a separate podcast just talking about this, but the thing about DJ that worries me is that even when he has a clean pocket, he feels the need to roll out. And when he rolls out, he immediately goes from, even if he's looking downfield, like I'm not convinced at this point that he looks downfield at all. But even if he's looking downfield, as soon as he goes to roll out, he focuses on the sticks. He's like, okay, who's the closest route to me? What are they doing? Can I get them the ball? And one, that limits the offense, and two, you have a clean pocket. Step up and throw the fucking ball. So it it feels to me like, through no fault of his own, to be completely honest, Pat Shermer, Joe Judge, Jason Garrett, uh fucking all these dudes have come in, now Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka have come in to try and fix him, get him to a place where he was a successful quarterback. I think he's effectively been David Card now. I think there's just too many people have tried to fix him in too many different ways. He's been hit too many times, and now he plays scared. And if you play scared, you're not going to be effective.
yeah, and I think that's a fair thing, and it's one of those things like and I've said this on other pods that we've done. At least I believe I have. I genuinely feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Like the entire fan base shit on him getting picked. Nobody wanted him to get picked. No one was hyped about that whatsoever.
Nope.
Then he's gone through shitty head coach to finally got a good head coach, but he's had 5 different offensive coordinators. Like, how are you going to hone in anything? And it's one of those things, like mentioning that he doesn't have eyes for downfield at all. I just looked up his average yards per attempt because I was curious. So over the years, 2021, his average yards per attempt was 6.73. 2022 it was 6.79. This year it's down to 5.79. So like seeing a full yard drop off is
Yeah.
pretty staggering, honestly. That he's not, getting that little um down the field as far as
And a full yard drop as he's getting more weapons, better weapons.
yeah.
He's longer tenured in the league. And like it's concerning. And like I said, like I went all in on DJ. I got a signed DJ mini helmet back there. I think you can see it
Yep.
over here. Yep, that's it right there. Right above that is a rookie patch auto booklet. Danny Dimes. I went all in. I was like, I'm throwing support behind this guy. I think he can do it. And I still think he is, the way you referenced Talking Giants, and I'm going to take what they said, give them credit for it, because they did say it, or one of their friends had said it, and they said Daniel Jones is the guy that can study his ass off and ace a test, but when it comes time for the pop quiz, he's gonna fail it because he's got happy feet. He's too scared. Like he has that test anxiety, and it's like, everything you're supposed to do, but when it comes time to do it, you can't, because you
Yeah.
are. And people have used the phrase paralysis by analysis, and it's either that, or it's you just don't process fast enough. Maybe you don't process on an NFL level. He is an excellent bridge quarterback. He is going to be that, I think, for the Giants for this year into next year, and whatever probably gets cut after that because the price tag is too high, or at least I hope, because I just don't see a way. And again, I don't think that this is all his fault. I do not believe that this is all his fault, but seeing this version of him after what I saw last year, and figuring out in the 5 years you've been in the league, this is closer to what you truly are. Last year was the aberration. Last
Yeah,
year was the mirage.
that was the
This is
anomaly.
closer to, yeah, this is closer to what you are. You're a guy that turns the ball over. You're a guy that fumbles. You're a guy that, is good when it comes to the quick short reads, like, but without a Saquon Barkley,
You don't have that.
you don't have it. You don't have it. And like, I will cheer for him. I hope he does well. I don't wish anything bad on Daniel Jones. I just think that the time has come to move on from Danny Dimes. I think we've seen everything we need to see. Um and like, it's time to usher in a new era.
I'd like to see it at this point too. Like it's unfortunate to say because again, I also like you have been rooting for the guy, and the downside is I don't think that they're going to end up making a change in the draft this year unless they're in a situation where it makes sense, and that's just legitimately tanking the season and drafting first overall. And
Yeah.
even then, I don't know that they do it. I think that they could potentially trade for a haul to do that. So
Yeah, there's just so many holes that, like, it's almost, and I love Caleb Williams as a prospect,
he's
but
incredible. Yeah.
I don't know who's next. I don't know who the next year, like, Dion says Shador isn't coming out this year because he wants to be number one. And like, I'm down with Shador. I've seen that dude play. He's a baller. He,
He's good with no offensive line too.
yeah, he's a killer. He's a killer. He would be very good in New York right now. So like, I don't know who's next. I know Caleb Williams. I know Drake Maine, I think is his name. I
May.
know Drake May. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know that this is supposed to be a very good crop of young quarterbacks. Um, I haven't done the research yet because I didn't think we would need a quarterback, but here the fuck we are. So look forward to more draft content coming up with me and Mike Spillane. Um,
I'm
but
gonna pass on May right now because I'm not gonna go with another Carolina basketball school quarterback that wears blue. So
that's fair. Super fair. I'm down with it. Down with it. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, do you drop another high pick on an offensive lineman right now? Like, I don't know. I'm real torn. I'm just kind of disgusted at this point,
the
and like,
reason
not looking forward to Miami this weekend.
no, I'm not. And the reason why I don't drop a high offensive or high pick on another offensive lineman is because I've resigned to the fact that it's not a talent issue. You know, it's
Feels
not a
that way.
talent issue with the majority of our offensive linemen. Because here's the thing: everyone's just so quick to label that Evan Neal's a bust. Evan Neal's a bust. Didn't work out. Evan Neal's terrible. Like, who's our scouting team? Literally every fucking one, every expert had Evan Neal. Some people even had Evan Neal as the number one pick in the fucking draft.
It's true.
Like, it's not that the Giants misscouted him. It's that something is not clicking. And at this point, it is a coaching issue. And that's how I feel about it. Is that it is 100%, it's become a coaching issue. Now, I don't think that's on Brian Dable. I don't necessarily think that it's an issue with Joe Shane. The issue for me at this point with offensive line is just, it's got to be Bobby Johnson. Like, and I'm not the kind of person that wants to be rooting for people to lose their jobs or anything like that. It's hard out there. It's hard. He does hard work, but like the amount of investment that's been put in this offensive line for it to be as fucking bad as it is, it's got to come down to something. And at this point, I don't know what else you could point a finger at.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like, Houston's dealing with this.
Yeah,
Houston's dealing with this. Laramie Tunsil is not playing, hurt. They drafted another tackle last year who got hurt before training camp even started and is out for the season. Like,
yeah,
they have their backups, and CJ Stroud has not thrown an interception and is like killing it. He's
yeah.
doing really fucking well.
Starting him in fantasy.
So yeah, as you should. It's yeah, it just doesn't, it feels like a coaching issue to me too. It feels like it's time. And like, unrelated, I think special teams also needs a new coach. I think they're valuing the wrong things on special teams. But I'm gonna pivot off of what you said. is that you don't think it's necessarily a Brian Dable issue or a Joe Shane issue. There are people calling for, Dable's seat to get warmer, Joe Shane's seat to get warmer, Mike Kafka to be fired, things like that. Do you fall into that camp? And if so, or if not, why?
So as far as Shane and Dable, no, their seat's not even remotely hot for me right now. People are going to be quick to make that change or make that debate. You got to remember they last year brought us to a playoff with a bad roster. They're still working through parts of that bad roster and the limitations that they were dealing with. So I'm not going to be calling for those two heads specifically yet. As far as Kafka goes, I'm not loving what's going on, but I can't tell if it's a Kafka calling the plays issue or a Daniel Jones executing the plays issue.
Or
Because
an
those are,
offensive line running away? It seems like they
yeah.
just run away.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I'm saying like I feel like before big heads roll, littler heads are gonna roll. And that's where, like I said, Bobby Johnson. You mentioned special teams because I'm gonna mispronounce his name.
Thomas McGahee,
Is it
I think,
McGahee?
is
Because
what
it
it
doesn't
is.
look like it's spelled like
It doesn't
McGahee.
look like that.
But yeah, I knew it was TM. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I look at those two, and those are the areas where I feel like we're executing just like exceptionally poor. Like,
Yeah.
like it's we're doing really good at how bad we're doing it.
Yeah, it's impressive that Evan Neal had such a bad year last year, and somehow he's doing even worse this year.
Yeah,
Like he went, lost weight, worked on his form, worked on his technique on his own, like all off season, comes back in training camp and somehow looks worse this year than he did last year.
sucks butts. Yeah,
If that's not a coaching issue, I don't know what that is. And like this dude has all the natural talent in the world. Played left tackle, played right tackle, played guard, all at Alabama. The whole time was Nick Saban's dude.
national
And
championship
now,
caliber. Like
yeah, and now you're going to tell me this dude forgets how to play offensive line? There's no way. There's no way.
I almost feel like you're gonna get this because of the fact that you watch Ted Lasso as well. I feel like we need like a Dr. Sharon. Like the team needs a Dr. Sharon, and before Dr. Sharon comes in, they need to go ahead and do a ritual to get the bad juju out. Like they
Get it
need to
out of the
go.
locker room.
Yeah, exactly. They got to cleanse it. Got to cleanse something.
Ghosts hate full bottles of alcohol. That's what I know
Yeah.
from that show. They taught me that. Um, so I want to pivot away from coaching and stuff and just ask more specifically about the Dallas game. Do you think this broke the team? Do you think that like opening night, first game of the season, prime time, division game, Dallas, like the team that you're slotted to be very close to, like do you think this contributed to where the Giants currently find themselves?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like that has got to be one of the most like demoralizing and had to be like mentally taxing on the players kind of performance. Like
It's
to go
hard for me
in,
to watch.
oh yeah, no, it's fucking miserable. No, to go into that game feeling like, all right, we're going to be competitive this year, like, and then to just get your absolute shit pushed in, like
Yeah.
it it had to have been a massive wake up call. And the thing is, and this is kind of my worry, and this is going to go back to coaching a little bit because this is my slight worry with it is that it seemed like potentially at halftime of that game, we didn't really see a sense of urgency from the coaching staff and from the leaders on the team. Whereas halftime of the second game against Arizona, someone did something. There was some fire, there was some sense of urgency, there was
Some shit
some
got said.
shouting, some screaming that got everybody on the same fucking page. Um, Against San Francisco, we were in a very rough situation. So like I'm gonna kind of like not talk about that game because that was a game preseason I said we weren't gonna win. Didn't matter what the situation was. We actually looked all right for about 2 quarters. Like it was one of those things where I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah,
And
that
we
game was
were
closer than I thought it was going to be.
and we were competitive against Seattle up until the pick six. Like once that pick six happened, everything fell apart.
That read
Absolutely
was
everything
so
was destroyed
bad.
because the defense, again, that's the thing that's like the most frustrating. It doesn't make sense to say it, but like against Dallas, the second half against Arizona and against Seattle, the defense was actually pretty good. It's just you're looking at the points total and you're not understanding. Well, some of those points are contributed due to the offense. Some of those points are contributed due to bad field position that was given up. Some of those points are, why did we have an illegal man downfield on a special teams play? Like,
It's a great
how does that even
question.
fucking
It's a
happen?
great
Or
question.
on a punt. Like,
It's a great question.
dude, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. Like, the defense and Wink, like, there hasn't been the turnovers aspect of it, and the sacks have been slow. But like, the defense is still like bending but not breaking, and still making stops when they need to make stops.
Yeah, the defense gave up 10 points, and 3 of those were after the game was out of reach. Essentially, it was after DJ fumbled the snap on their 10. Um so that drive they went down the field, got a field goal. But you watch that game from Monday, where they had the thing that really just steams me up about is they had 11 days to prep for this game. You
Yeah.
had 11 days to prep for this game. The defense was ready. The defense played really fucking good. They played really, really well. Gave up 7 points. You gave up 7 fucking points.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow the offense still managed to fuck you into losing. So it's just very frustrating for that to be the case, because yeah, you have a rookie corner on DK Metcalf who beat him for a touchdown. He beat him for
Yeah.
a tutty, but you expect that. You expect that from DK Metcalf. He is a freak of nature. But for all intents and purposes, they held that whole offense in check. They got to Geno. They rattled Geno. They kept Kenneth Walker in check for the most part. Like, they did everything that they needed to do in order to win the game. And like, the way I described it is like Seattle wanted the Giants to win that game. They kept them, they let them in that game the whole time,
Yeah.
and the Giants were just unwilling and unable to do anything of substance. Literally nothing of substance. And like, it leads me into like, Matt Breida had like a 2 yard per carry average. What the fuck is the point of running this dude out here then? If he's
Yeah.
only going to average 2 yards a carry, why is Eric Gray not getting the ball? Why is Gary Brightwell not getting? Why is Gary Brightwell on the team? But like, why is Eric Gray, our 5th round pick from this year, not getting the fucking football? Like,
Yeah.
at least give the ball to people that you need to learn something about, because apparently Breida can't be that guy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. You know, we drafted some of these young guys. Like, why are we not giving them a shout? You know, like, get it?
Um, so I want to, because we've touched on the Seahawks game, final straw, everything like that. Evan Neal comments. How do you feel about what he said? Obviously, he came out and apologized today, but yesterday afternoon or early evening, he made the comment that he is a lion and he will not be disturbed by us sheep who flip hot dogs. Never flipped a hot dog in my whole life, but
He did
whatever.
also. He did include the burgers too. Some hot
He
dogs.
did.
Burgers.
He did.
Started with hot dogs, which was odd.
The guy doesn't eat a lot of hot dogs, apparently.
I mean, he's an offensive lineman. That I've seen a hot dog eater. Like, I've seen my way around a hot dog here or there. But I'm curious your thoughts on it too. But for me, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Um, Obviously, he came out course corrected quickly. The team had him course correct quickly because he put out an apology last night after it happened, spoke publicly, apologized again today. Um, you know that John Mara, Brian Daboll, Joe Shane were on his ass the second
Oh yeah,
that happened,
yeah,
being like, dude, don't fucking do it. And then you have the new guys. You have the new guy, Justin Pugh, who obviously is an old guy, but is a new guy, already coming in acting like a leader and saying, been in your shoes, been there, done that. I understand, wanted to say it, didn't say it, made a mistake. Like, he's got a little bit better of mentorship, and even Saquon chimed in on it in the locker room too. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's still a young kid. I mean, and you know, he's what, 22 years old, 23 years old,
Something
like
like that.
still
Yeah,
very,
very
very
young,
young,
very young.
very young. And he said something that should have been an inside thought, not an outside thought.
Should have stayed as a
Um,
thought bubble. Should have
and
just
it's one
kept
of
it
those
in.
things that we absolutely, as fans, have every right to go ahead and have our opinions. You have not played well. I want to go ahead and dissect it and say that the first half of your statement, not the burger flipping, not the hot dog flipping, because again, no one fucking flips a hot dog. But I'm going to focus on the first half of your statement, and you called yourself a lion. Fucking show me that on the field. Because at this point, I like him a lot as a prospect. He has not had good coaching, and I think that that is clearly evident. But, and here's my but, is you are on a very slippery slope making comments like that right now. Losing the people of New York is not something that you want to do.
No.
You are about to be demoted from a right tackle. If things do not get better, you are going to be go from a right tackle to being a guard really quick. Like it's going to happen. You're going to move from right tackle to guard like that if things don't start to perk up soon. And next year, if you're playing guard and it does not go well, you are gone before year 4. And these comments that you made are going to be something that sticks with you, as something that as other teams are going to look at you and be like, do we want to give that guy another shot? Like, because I can tell you right now, one team that's probably having a little bit of regret with something is you look at the Kadarius Toney situation. That guy talked a lot of fucking shit and is still
He
talking a
did.
lot of shit, and
He
he's
is.
doing nothing with it. And I feel like all he's doing is just getting Kansas City and Andy Reid, who again, another guy knows a lot about a hot dog.
Yeah.
Like
Big burger guy though.
hit,
Loves his
hit,
burgers.
he does love his burgers, but you can't tell me that he hasn't had a burger that had a hot dog on it.
He's probably had a burger dog. Yeah, he's probably had a burger
Well,
dog.
not even a burger dog. There's this one place in Orlando. I don't know if you ever went there, called Oblivion Tap Room.
I have
Um,
not. I did not
it's
go there.
closed now, but when
I know where it was.
they had this artery clogging madness that was called the All American, and it was a burger that was just a cheeseburger with a hot dog on it and potato chips on top of it. And I'm just like, that's the 4th of July, baby.
America.
But no, it's one of those things. Like you look at the slope that players like that have gone down, and it's time now for you to atone for what you said. You've apologized. You're understanding of the mistakes that you made. Now show that you are a lion because you called yourself that, and be a fucking bruiser on the field. That's the best way that you can rebound from the comments that you made.
Yeah, for me, it's at this point, it's very similar to what you said. Show me that you're that lion, but even more so, you are the veteran guy on this line. You are the
Yeah.
remaining tackle on this line, and the crazy thing to me is that if your left tackle goes down most times in a season, most teams will take their right tackle and move them to the left tackle spot and then put someone else at right tackle.
Yeah.
The Giants have put a guard, Josh Azudu, who could not beat out Mark Glowinski in training camp, as their left tackle, and left Evan Neal as right tackle in hopes that he continues to get reps and develop there. You have done nothing yet. You got drafted. We were excited. You and I both wanted both of these picks. You and I both wanted Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, and we got both of them.
We were clamoring.
Kayvon looks good at times. He looks bad at times. That's not the point. Evan Neal needs to put up now. You ran your mouth a little bit. You got beat down by everyone in the New York media, and I'm sure everyone in the front office. I'm sure John Mara ripped you a new asshole. I'm sure Joe Shane was like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm sure Brian Dable was like, come on, bro. What the fuck? Like, you just gave up 2 sacks yesterday. Like, what are you doing? So just solidify yourself. Take care of your island, my friend, because there is enough going there. There's enough going on there that you have to worry about. You ain't got to worry about what we're saying, what we're doing, why we're booing, whatever. you have enough going on in your circle that you need to take care of. So like solve your shit and then worry about what the fans are doing, because we all wanted you here because we thought you were going to be a fucking guy. So just be a fucking guy.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. That's it. Just be a guy. Just be a guy, or and like earn your draft pedigree. I still think he's going to get kicked into guard. I really think he's just going to get kicked to guard. But like,
At this point, if there's not a change soon on the coaching front for the offensive line, yeah, next year he's probably going to be a guard. Yeah,
and like I think Pennick said this on Talking Giants, but like I feel like you almost need to see him at guard this year so that
potentially.
you are not thinking like next year like, oh, Evan Neal's gonna slot in as our right tackle, because you made that mistake this year. Don't be dumb enough to make that mistake again. So I don't know. I There's so much influx. I just want Andrew Thomas to come back to like solidify something.
Yeah, and it's still looking like we're going to be without Andrew Thomas and potentially Saquon for at least another week.
Thomas for me doesn't feel week to week. Thomas to me feels like month to month. Like this feels like we're not going to see Thomas till week 8. Dude's been
Yeah, at
out
this
since week
point,
1.
it's feeling like whatever it was is not like a strain; it's like a slight tear.
Yeah,
Like,
it
and
feels bad.
that sucks. But it's one of those things. Like, I don't want us to rush him back and risk something that's going to be a long term thing that could affect his longevity through future seasons. Like, we have him under contract, I think, until 2029
Something like that.
with the
Yeah.
new contract that we gave him at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
If this, I'm looking at the next two games. This team is, if this
Done.
team doesn't start one
Done.
and five, I'm fucking shocked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we do not start, if we somehow are 2-4 or 3-3, like by some stretch of
No way.
Deus Ex
0%.
Machina, like, like there's no way. So yeah, I'm looking at a 1-5 team, and if that's the case, like just keep him out until he absolutely is 100%. There's no sign of anything. There's no tension. There's no pain. There's no twinge. There's not a goddamn thing that could potentially go wrong for him.
Well, I'm worried. I'm worried about the future of the Giants. I think I said this last night when we recorded. I do think that the defense in the next year or two is going to be really formidable. I think they're going to be in a really good place. And having an excellent defense is a quarterback's best friend. So it feels like the right time to try and let Shane and Dable get their guy. It
Yeah.
feels like the right time when you have, your nose tackle solidified. You think Kayvon's going to take a step and be one of the better edge rushers in the league. You have your corners figured out. You think X might stay at safety unless we trade him at the deadline. Like, you have a lot of these very important pieces figured out, and they're young and they're going to grow over the next year or two. So I think you're going to see a formidable defense from the Giants here soon. Uh, and hopefully that leads to, more opportunity and better opportunity for whatever young quarterback they possibly bring in, because I do think that the time of Jones has passed. I think we are now moving into whoever will be next.
If not, it's the days are fleeting.
Yeah.
Like
He's
they're
got
starting.
he's got a lot of grace to make up.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that he realistically has another year because they cannot feasibly cut him next year.
Right.
There's no way, but it's one of those things like, will next year just be a transition year? Are they going to draft a quarterback and then wait for the contract to run out for him to have a full year to sit behind a quarterback before something happens? Like, is that going to be the case, or are they just going to cut their ties next year and sign a quarterback in free agency or something?
Yeah, it to me, what I said to you was what I would like them to do is keep him next year and just use him as ground beef. And like, you stand behind this line, like let this kid stand on the sideline, learn the offense. If he needs to come in at the end of a game when, the third stringers are playing defense for the other team to get some NFL experience, great. Then he can go into the game and like whatever. But and then the next year is all him. You cut DJ in year 3, at the start of year 3 of the contract, and that becomes whatever rookie you draft's team. So I don't know. We'll see. I think we'll probably do another one of these either before or after the trade deadline to see if the Giants move Saquon Barkley or Leonard Williams, or there's Xavier McKinney who is on the
Adoree
last year of his
Jackson.
deal, Adoree Jackson who's on the last year of his deal. Like there is very much there is a lot of possibility for them to move these pieces to acquire more draft capital, to be more aggressive at the draft and try and plug these holes. So very curious to see what happens. Very nervous, but the thing I can say, and I know a lot of people don't agree, or there are people that don't agree, is that I think Brian Dable is a great head coach. I think he's a great head coach. I think that we have the right person in charge there. I think Joe Shane has shown his ability to draft. And yes, he did draft Evan Neal, but one of the things I feel like people aren't understanding is that he didn't have his guys in there. His guys weren't doing all of the scouting. Yes,
Yeah.
he was with Buffalo. But like, if you thought he was doing tackle research in Buffalo for the number 5 overall pick, no, he was not. I promise he
Yeah.
wasn't. So I give him a little grace. It sucks to waste a 5th round pick or a 7th overall pick on
Yeah.
Evan Neal. But look at fucking San Francisco. They hit more often than they miss, and like everyone's fine with it. So like if he can have that kind of record, I'm good with it. I'm good
That's the
with it.
thing. San Francisco is completely just eating the fact that we fucked up with Trey Lance, and now
Yeah.
they're riding with a Mr. Irrelevant who is now, I don't know if he's lost a game like in the
I
regular
don't think
season.
he has. I don't think he's
Like,
lost.
Brock Purdy's fucking insane at this point. Like he's still kind of a game manager guy, but again, he can look downfield.
It's all he does. All he needs to do in Shanahan is not turn the ball over. Get the
Yeah.
ball to Christian McCaffrey, and then you have every single weapon everywhere else.
Dude, feel bad
Like,
for anyone that played Christian McCaffrey in fantasy last week.
yeah, he fucking did some shit. I feel bad for me not drafting Christian McCaffrey. That's fucking Austin Eckler punching me in the butt.
Wait, did you have the option? Was McCaffrey still there?
Yeah, McCaffrey was there. I
Oof.
took Eckler over McCaffrey. Yeah, it was an injury thing. I was like, no way CMC stays healthy this year. Well, fuck me in the ass because
Here's Austin
Eckler
Eckler
definitely
injured for
hasn't
5
been.
weeks.
Yeah, great. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening to us commiserate. I know really only Giants fans are going to listen to this one, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Mike is actually our business, our company's draft guy, so like you can expect a lot more draft coverage type things from Mike Spillane. And my goal with going for it is to eventually do like a draft party gathering with just us at some point. It probably won't happen this year, next year more likely. But and yeah, so if you would like to see that, if you would like to be a part of that, if you'd like to be part of our community, like, comment, and subscribe on this and other videos. We appreciate you for hanging out, and we will see you all back here next time. Hooray!